need a good garden hose, right? And if you're using one of these, I get it. This is probably the first garden hose I ever bought when I had my first house, and they really don't last. They're just a rubber. They've got a little bit of mesh inside. Any kind of heat temperature, cold temperature is going to force them to crack. If you bend it anywhere, it remembers that bend, and that's where it's going to crack in the future. So, listen, if you're in a pinch, it's not a bad hose, but it's really not a good hose. Let me introduce you to the what I call the ultimate garden hose. It's called HydroSteel. And the reason I love this hose, first of all, you can never kink or knot this hose, all right? And there's a reason behind that. First of all, you have a very slick but very well-made fiber jacket on the outside. It's a very, very super tight weave, all right? And if you come in close, I'll hold it like this, and if you come in really close, you can see just how, as close as you want to get. There you go, guys. You see that weave? It is super, super tight. You are unable to bend it because inside the weave, because that's the first layer, is a 304 stainless steel shell inside. That shell is almost like, like a rattlesnake. You know how it's one over the other, over the other, over the other. That's what gives it the bendability, but it also gives it that strength of 304 stainless. And on the inside is a rubberized tube, and that's what gives you that great flow of water. This garden hose will support pressure up to 500 pounds per square inch. Okay, I've got 3 sizes. I always tell people, always buy the biggest hose, because you can't really make a smaller hose longer unless you buy more hose. So why not buy the longest hose you can get and coil it up? I've got 125 feet of hose right in this bucket. I could never do that with rubberized hose. So 125 foot, that's my choice. That's on sale at $79. We also have it available. Oh, I've only got 200 left in the 100 foot. That is $69. And then for $49, you can get the 50 foot. The only reason I would recommend the 50 foot is if maybe you live in a condo and you don't need it just to water the flowers in front of your house. My everything expert, Lou Caputo.
Hello, guys.
How are you, buddy?
Good to see you. Good to see you.
I know you probably want to go over. Are you on there or there?
No, right here. I'm good here.
All right, I'll go over here.
Yeah.
So Lou specializes. First of all, Lou knows a lot about garden hoses yeah, Lou is in law enforcement. He also on the water.
On the water. Yeah.
And so he knows a lot about garden hoses and a lot of other great ideas that he brings us. This hose is the last hose I bought.
Yeah.
I bought it last year.
Yep.
It's phenomenal.
It's and so many of the things you were talking about on this, like for instance, 500 PSI out of this hose, out of your HydroSteel hose here. Your house puts out maybe 50, 60 at the absolute most.
Yeah.
So this is rated so much higher than what your house does. Look at the end caps right here too. This handle that's on the end there, that is actually sealed to the steel that's on here. So like a lot of times with hoses, you would like twist it and it would just start to come off. Okay.
Right.
That is not going to come off there. But the big deal is if you're like me and you're starting to get a little arthritis in your hands, when you have this, you can grip this and get all the torque you need to get it off there. But it's tough, 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 and that's the big thing about this hose. It's also lighter, and I'll show you that in a second, but let me show you a really quick example. Now, you've shown everybody how the hose kinks, right? So like a regular garden hose, this is not, right there, that's stopping water flow, okay? You can't do that with your HydroSteel. But here's the other thing. When you're out there and you're dragging that hose around, I'm just gonna take a saw just to simulate, over the course of the summer, you're out there, you're dragging it across the pavement, the furniture all over the place. What happens? You got a nice hole right there. This hose is
that wasn't very hard to cut.
It wasn't very hard to cut. No, but watch this, though. If I take the HydroSteel that everybody's buying right now, and I just go back and forth on this a couple of times, right? Now, look at that braiding, first of all, and you can't even see the steel windings, that 304 stainless steel on the inside. You can't even see that right there. So this hose is going to put up with all that abuse, and it's going to keep going. You're not going to have to buy a new hose every single season.
No, and that's what everybody does.
That's a huge deal.
I love that this is the only garden hose that I've ever felt comfortable leaving outside all year.
Because it's not going to freeze.
No, in Connecticut, where I grew up, my dad always used to bring the garden hose in.
Absolutely, because it'll burst.
It'll crack, it'll burst. You can't leave it outside.
Exactly. Well, and then the other thing, too, is it doesn't get mildew, it doesn't get stiff. It's going to remain flexible and pliable the whole time. Yeah, I mean, that, and that alone right there, if I've got a 125-foot of hose and it kinks and the water stops, and I got to walk all the way back 125 feet to find out where that is, I don't want it, all right? I want something I know that's going to work. Now, let me show you this right here, because I got 2 demonstrations off to the side here, which I think are pretty impressive. The first one is the scales right here, guy, okay? So this is 100 feet of a standard garden hose, probably one everybody has at home right now. this rubber hose right here. This is 125 feet of our hose, okay, of the HydroSteel that you're buying right now. The garden hose, just the regular rubber hose, weighs 4 pounds more than the HydroSteel.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. It's also 25 feet shorter. So,
yeah, it
you know
make
what I mean?
sense.
So it's that
Yep.
much heavier that you've got all that extra weight on this one and a shorter hose, whereas you've got a tougher hose, it's a stronger, you know, it's lighter, it's just gonna be more durable. But I'll show you something else. On the ground in front of me right here, I've got 2 hoses sitting on the ground, okay? And I'm just gonna grab these 2 guys, because what we've got here is we've got the rubber hose, and then we've got the HydroSteel. Now I want you to see all the knots that are in the HydroSteel hose. There's 6 knots in the HydroSteel. There's only 4 in this one. Now look at this right here. I can still spray with the HydroSteel, but what's coming out of the rubber hose, that's the best it's going to do, is that tiny little sorry drizzle of water right there. So whether, you know, you can't crush it, you can't kink it, you can't cut it with your HydroSteel hose, you know that this is going to work every single time that you get out there and you need that water.
We're throwing in a couple of bonuses, by the way, which is, this is a big deal. So in addition to the hose, and most of you, by the way, the 125 will probably be the first to sell out.
Right.
Everybody buys the big hose. It just makes more sense, right? Even if you're not sure. Because I'll tell you, if you buy a 100-foot hose and your hose bib is on the other side of your house and you need to wash your car and you're 10 feet short, you're going to be very, very, very mad at yourself. So we're giving you 2 of the sprayers. This comes with it. You get the multiple, you know, different sprayer, which has like the cone spray.
7 different settings.
7 different settings and a lock button so you can lock it. And then this is the one that I love.
I love that one.
This is your little fireman's hose, which actually allows you to do a wide spray all the way down to a tight spray. So this is great for gardening and things like that. Even washing your car. You know, if you don't
That's
want
what I use it for, is washing the car, because it does a great job of just getting all that dirt off of it, all the soap. You know, and like you said, you do a nice strong spray. So just to get those thrown in, there's a great deal. But I'll give you another reason to love this, okay? And that's how neat this is going to stay for you and how compact it actually is. Because we showed you the weight difference, that 4-pound weight difference between a 125 HydroSteel versus a 100-foot of the rubber hose. But look at this setup right here in front of us on these 2 reels. So this is 125 feet right here. I love this. This is 125 feet of the HydroSteel. Look how neat and clean that is. And there's actually room maybe for another 50 feet on there. Look at the rubber hose. That's only 100 feet of the rubber hose, and it is a nightmare horror show over there. First of all, it's stiff. Look how dirty it is, guys. Look at the mold and mildew on that.
It's awful. It's awful.
And that's only 100 feet. You'd never fit a 125 on there.
And remember, if you come in close, this is what ruins your hose.
Right there.
Anytime, and watch, I'll do it slowly so you can see. Anytime you bend this hose, and we'll get in we'll wait till we get a real close shot. But anytime you bend this hose like that, okay? Now that spot right there, that is never going to go away. It's always going to be there, and you can see it. So every time I bend that hose, I'll try, every time I bend it, it's, even when I try to bend it over there, it's going to want to bend there. That's the problem. And then you get weakness on the 2 sides, and that's where the crack will happen.
That's where it's going to happen.
You can't do that with the Hydro hose.
No, the HydroSteel hose will not let that happen because of the steel windings that are inside of it. And, you know, there's a flower pot. I'll show you that in just a second. Actually, right here is what we're showing you how it's made. So it does have that plastic hose on the inside. It's a very heavy-duty plastic. Then the steel windings, that 304 stainless steel. Then it's covered with that fabric on the outside with that amazing handle that's bonded to it. So you get a really, really nice hose that's going to last for years. And, you know, people always ask me, why did we put the fabric on it? Well, if you've ever had a steel hose before, okay, and you drug it across your yard, it's not going to hurt the hose, but if it rubs against your furniture, the side of the house, it might actually take a little paint off and might chip it. Yeah, look at that. You can't do that with the HydroSteel.
This, like, I'm holding it like that just to show you. I'll try to straighten it. It doesn't work.
It remembers that.
It's never going to straighten because this sat in the sun like that.
It's
sat in the sun and it's ruined. All right, and you might have spent 50 or 60 bucks on this hose.
Exactly, and you'll do it every single year. One last thing, right here, the flower pot that's sitting on the ground there. I just want to show everybody that's 100.
Nice.
Actually, I think that's 125